On today's episode of Caterham Basics, we're going to address the single most common question we get asked here at Caterham Cars, and that's, what is the difference between your chassis sizes? Well, today we have a standard chassis, we have a large chassis. Let's run through the differences. First up, we have our standard chassis. Now this is a modern metric equivalent of the original 50s Colin Chapman design, the pure spirit of the 7. However, we also do this car, the large chassis, a longer, wider and taller version of the same thing. Now if we take a look at a couple of the aesthetic changes, we'll note the front grille here on the standard chassis and on the large chassis, the much bigger aperture across there. If we also look at the top of the windscreen, one of the easiest ways to visually tell between a standard and a large chassis is by counting the numbers of poppers across the top. 7 means standard chassis, 11 means larger chassis. Now the larger chassis itself is 110 millimeters wider, it's 250 millimeters longer, it has 80 millimeters extra cockpit space, which equates to also 25 millimeters extra headspace. You get an extra 10 litres worth of luggage capacity in the boot and an extra 4 litres worth of fuel tank size. All in all, both fantastic options for the road and the track. Now along with our different chassis options, we also do separate floor options. We do a standard and a lowered floor. Now our standard floor runs parallel with the edge of the painted part of the body you see here. The lowered floor is this approximately 45 millimeter drop. Now that drop drops the seats and therefore you 45 millimeters lower in the car. This means for taller drivers you have more headroom and legroom, or even if you're not that tall, you get that feeling of feeling in the car rather than on the car. These are optional on standard and large chassis models. Now, as a general rule, we'd recommend that our standard chassis with the lowered floor will manage to fit people up to around 6'2", and the large chassis with the lowered floor around 6'6". However, what we'd always say is people are tall in different ways. So the only way to really find out what car is the comfiest for you, come along and have a try. And there we go, it's as simple as that. Now whether you're looking to buy your first Caterham, hire your first Caterham, hopefully that video was of help. As always, to create your ideal 7, click the link in the description below to access our online configurator.